Hello, everyone. How are you? I'm excellent. Thank you. I hope you are all well also. So, first of all, I'm trying this phone. It's a weird and different. I'd like to try to start vlogging with a phone. I think that's why I ruined my footage the other week, but I think this is gonna work. I just might forget to look at the right place. But anyways, hello. Here's another episode of It's My Life. I think it's episode 3. I don't remember. 3 or 4. I'll have to check. I do remember the last place I left was dropping out of high school. If you haven't checked out my first ones, you should do that. I'll link them here somewhere. Okay, so once I was out of high school early, like I said, it was at the end of 10th grade, almost when 11th grade would start. My mom was still working, and Amy was finishing her, she had to still do those few months in school. And then even when she did graduate, because she was 2 years older, so she'd be a senior, she went and started working like at Brindle's or somewhere. So basically, I had the house to myself. I do remember that I just had like the house for like the whole afternoon until everyone came home to myself. And that's when I started doing more like exercising and caring more about like my health and how I looked and how I was. Not how I looked as in like fashion and beauty, but you know what I was talking about, like showering and just taking care of myself more. I started riding my bicycle around the neighborhood while my dad started running. Well, he always ran, but I went with him more, And I spent, yes, I'm a little, okay, here, I'm just gonna say it. Okay, I'm saying all my stuff. I know you guys are probably like, she's crazy. People don't normally ever just like say their worst parts or like their most secretive parts, or just, what I'm saying, that like usually they keep that stuff to themselves unless like you really know someone. But I'm the complete opposite. And in the end, if you watch these vlogs, you'll see why some of these things I say is important, to mention all these bad things I've done, or not all bad, but just weird and, I'm saying, private or whatever. But okay, so I used to always find my mom and dad's private things they'd hide. Like, they couldn't hide anything from me in their bedroom. And I don't know if I mentioned or not, I think I did, when my mom was in Alaska, she had adult parties and lingerie parties. Did I say that? Well, I'll say it again in case I didn't. She sold like lingerie and toys and all that stuff from like Shirley's of Hollywood. And there wasn't a whole lot of people back then who were doing like those home parties and stuff. And oh my God, she got my dad to be the male model. He'd go with her and he'd model, because he always had a fit body. He'd always run and exercise and lift weights and everything. Even like when he was like right now, 70 something, before he died, he was fit, She'd get him to model those little thongs for men they sold, like with the little thumb cuffs hanging off them, whatever, And the only way she'd get him to do that is to get him to drink some schnapps. See, he hated alcohol, and never drank. And, but she'd get him to drink some like peach schnapps. I remember it in the cabinet. And I remember him forever, if he ever smelled that again, he would just throw up. But it was so hilarious. But anyways, so when she moved like to North Carolina, I know that they had still a lot of their stock that they had bought, like their adult toys and their VHS tapes, plus their own private VHS tapes. You know what I'm talking about. So when I quit high school and I was home for those months, alone, one of the main things I did was masturbate. I can't believe I just told you guys that. I would find their old porn tapes, and I loved those. Okay, I am a porn lover. Yes, all right. I love porn. Am I red yet? But the old porn is the best. Okay, if you guys know what I'm talking about, like from the 80s, when they were on still videotapes. And they were just more real, not all like fake everything, and I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, I did that like all day, every day. I was thinking later, like, oh my God, I'm surprised that when they came home, like the whole house didn't smell like masturbation. Anyways, oh my god. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. I'm sure you all are like, let's move on. So living in North Carolina, my dad would always take us out hiking. I love nature. I loved nature. I loved being outside in the woods and going up in the mountains. And that's one thing we did tons of was hiking and river hopping, rock hopping. They had so much rocks there. We were obsessed with the rocks. We'd all go down to the rivers and just find big pretty rocks as big as we could carry back up to the car, and we'd be so freaking weighted down with rocks. And then when we get home, we'd put them all like around outside in the house or the garden or whatever. But I loved living in North Carolina, and I was always outside hiking in nature with the family. And then my mom, she always did craft shows locally. You know, she always made stuff like the dolls in in Alaska. And in North Carolina, she started doing more crafts, and she started going further out because I was out of school and I could go with her and help her. So she started booking craft. It was a big thing back then, craft events were, I don't know if they still are nowadays or not, but they were big, and lots of people went, and you could make money. And so she started making cloth hair bows with like cloth matching button earrings. And like I said, I went with her. I loved her little Toyota. It was like a white truck, like the older ones that, you know, used to be popular, and it had like the back that you put on it. What's it called? Like a camper back thing, you know, you just put on yourself. Not a camper back. I don't know what it's called. You know, just like the little shell, like a shell, whatever. And we'd load it up with all her stuff, and we'd drive all around to all different states, you know. And it was so wonderful, those years of doing that. I did at least for like a year or so, or a year and a half, or maybe 2. Okay, so she sold the hair bows and the earrings, and the women, you know, you could see like they'd start looking or whatever at the stuff, and I would just go up and start like talking to them and saying how pretty it looked on them or blah, 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 and I would like eventually just sell them the stuff. And they'd tell my mom all the time, like, I'm buying this because of your daughter, you know, I'm buying this because of your daughter. And then it was so funny that I had this idea, like, you know, maybe 6 months into going to the different craft shows. All the women would hold the bows up in the mirror that my mom had, and like this to their chin, to look at the pattern and the colors like to their face, right? Or to how it would look on them. And then I always would think and say that it looked really pretty right here, kind of like, you know, like those airplane stewardess will tie the little fancy like scarves here with the bow, you know, it kind of had that kind of look to it. And so I gave my mom the idea to turn her hair bows into something she called crossbows, which is where she just super glued a little like a safety pin kind of style pin on the back also. So the business women who bought these bow and earring sets could wear it on their business kind of suits up here as like a bow tie kind of thing that was really pretty with the matching earrings. Or they could wear it as a hair bow. Or they can buy an extra hair bow to match and have all 3. And as soon as that happened, it took way off. And she started making tons of money at these craft shows. Not tons of money, but a lot of money, you know, good money. And we would drive around to them, and we stayed at hotels. It was so freaking fun, the freedom and everything. And we would smoke out. Okay, my mom and my dad, you know, they're not alive anymore, and they were never ashamed anyways. They just didn't, like, tell the world like I am. But like I said, they're not here. They wouldn't care. But they smoked, you know, basically, like, most of their life, they smoked, you know. That was one of my best memories as a child, was being in the bathroom with mom and dad and Amy, you know, while they did that, you know, wherever, like in their apartment or whatever when they were younger. Oh my gosh, being there for hours and just laughing and having fun. You know how it would be. They never let us smoke, you know, as kids or anything, of course. But at that age, I think, what is it when you're like in 10th or 11th grade? I was probably like 15 or 16. She did let me start to try it. And I'm glad that she did, because I could have just easily done it behind her back with friends, like kids can and do, you know what I'm saying? I'm glad that she was there and that friend who did it with me in a safe environment. So anyways, so we smoked, and it was so fun just traveling all day with her, listening to music so freaking loud and just going to these craft shows. One thing I gotta say, which I did tell her, you know, like a few years afterwards, is that I stole from her. It's so awful, I know. Judge me, I don't care, you know, I mean, I did it, you know. It wasn't like you know, it was an evil thing. It was just, you know, like, and I admit, like, when I did my pen store, you know, years ago when the kids were smaller, you know, I had them work for me. When you have kids, like, if you have a farm or something, you have kids, they work in your family business. You know, you don't pay them, like, minimum wage, you know what I'm saying? So when I worked for her, she gave me money, but it wasn't like, you know, I got paid like a lot of money or anything. So if she had a really good craft show, I would skim like $20 or $40 off the top. I would, okay? I did, all right? And like I said, I told her, you know, years later, and I only did it for like those few years there. I never ever stole like from her or anyone after that. Well, which brings me to something else when I did steal. But anyways, I loved going to the craft shows. I really found like myself through those years, and just had the best time with my mom. She's my best friend. We got along. We were just like so much like each other. Okay, so during this time when we'd come home in between, Amy, you know, like I said in my last video, like during high school, we weren't like close. We didn't really hang out or do things together anymore. Excuse me. Ugh, sorry, I burped. You know, she's older and we had our differences. And during this time, it got even worse. And I can look back and see that I'm sure I would probably be upset too. Like, if I was at home working, she was buying her little car, her little red Fiesta. I loved it. While my sister was out like smoking, having fun, and going around to all these states, right? You know? But she wasn't that nice about it a lot. When we'd be home, she'd call us like druggies and stuff. And, you know, she just wasn't like, she'd like say things that were like not nice to me and my mom. And so we weren't close at this stage. But then not very far later in the future, like within a year, we did start hanging out more, and, you know, becoming friends again. My dad worked at Ingles, and there's always, back then, there were like these dollar theaters. I don't know if they still have them. They might still have them. I think they do still have them, actually, but maybe not. I don't know. But I loved them because as soon as the movie came off the big theaters, it went into these little dollar theaters, and there was one that was right next to where my dad worked. And me and my sister started like going to work with him and kind of helping him out because he was a meat cutter. And we'd just go across the street to the dollar theater and watch movies also all day long, and we started hanging out. And then we got a job. The craft shows didn't do so well, and my mom, you know, always had kind of physical problems, like with her back and stuff. And we started working at McDonald's. And it's funny because me and my sister basically worked everywhere together all our lives. And, oh my gosh, McDonald's. I actually enjoyed McDonald's. I like a high pressure, I like achieving things and, you know, being like multitasking and being really good and efficient. And McDonald's is like, that was a lot of pressure when they put you in the hole, you know, like in the drive-thru and stuff. And me and Amy, we just did it so good. They always had us there. We worked at this McDonald's, and oh my gosh, like I said, that's when we started hanging out more. She had never really smoked. She didn't like the way it made her feel. She always had, I don't know if you get rid of it, obsessive compulsive disorders, you know, like things like, oh my gosh, her youngest was, you know, like if you've noticed, it's been like three videos or more. Look at me looking down, sheepish. Oh, and I haven't really talked much about Amy, but I can say if you think this is the truth, right? I mean, her story is her story, all right? But I'm just gonna say this. I remember, like, in California when we were young, she would always, like, be pulling her underwear compulsively out of her butt crack, you know? Or something, I don't know. But, like, all her underwear had, like, holes in there where she kept pulling them out. And the other one I remember was, like, with germs, she'd always, like, blow on her fingers when she touched anything she touched. And just, like compulsive kind of things, right? And so when she did smoke a little during life, she didn't like the way it made her feel, you know? And, like, once you do feel that way, you're feeling that way for a few hours. And she just didn't like having, I guess, not that control of how she felt, right? So she rarely smoked. But at this stage, when we worked at McDonald's, she did smoke with me, and it was so fun. Oh my God, we had so much fun. We started going out. We started going out at night. I gotta tell you, this is probably a whole long video already. I'll start another one, okay? But first, let me end this before I get into the whole going out stuff, because that's a whole different phase of life. Before, you know, I started working at McDonald's and going out, I gotta say this part, is that I did steal from a place called, it was called Farmore. It's kind of like a Kmart, you know. Back then I loved nails and nail polish, and I loved makeup. Not as in like the I just want to put makeup on me and be beautiful way, but I really was wanting to be like a makeup artist, you know. Like, I just love like applying it and doing different looks, and I just loved it. And I couldn't, back then you couldn't even buy stuff on the internet like you can now. You can't just go and order all this cool makeup and nail polish. All you had was what you had like at Kmart or whatever. And then it was expensive. I mean, at $3 to $5 each little color, you know. So I went and I stole it. I know it's bad, you know, and I did. I went and stole it. Back then they didn't have cameras and like at all, and you just had to like just not get caught. And I was really good at stealing the little makeups. I'd go steal lots of nail polish and makeup for like, you know, not that long. It was a short-lived experience thing for me. After that, I have not stolen anything. I never would steal anything, and if I had the opportunity. I don't, you know, believe in that. I don't know why I did it or why I stopped doing it. But that was, I think, the last time I stole anything. Yeah, and I would never steal anything now, ever. But I did back then. Yeah, I think I'm going to end that there. As always, thank you for watching my super weird and interesting vlog about my life. Bye.